Yo, what's up guys? It's me Ollie here, and today on the channel we're going to be checking in the National League who can get promoted to League 2 or whoever has a chance on getting playoffs in that league. Anyway, so we're going from 1st Rochdale to 10th Solihull Moors. So let's start with Rochdale. So yeah, they've been in some great form. They're destined to go back up this season. They got a good game against Woking. They'll probably win that. To be fair, they've got some kind of easier fixtures than what you would have thought. Because they've got games like Brackley Town, Boston, Tamworth. Those are three pretty easy games in my opinion. And probably Morecambe as well, and Braintree. But they have got some good teams like Southend, Scunthorpe and York, who are also destined to go up this season. But now we're going to check York City. As you can see, they've won a decent amount of games. They've won like 6 games in a row. Yeah. They've been in some fantastic form, York. They've scored a lot of goals in the league this season. They've scored about like 84 goals they've scored. Oh, they'll do very well if they got promoted to League 2. 84 goals they've scored. They've conceded 31, but for me, York City would probably be my league winners for the season. Because I think they'll just become just too strong for everyone, really. Even Rochdale, I think that York will take over first place, and Rochdale will have to try and do it in the playoffs, in my opinion, but I'm not too sure yet. Let's say later on in the season, I'll give my like who's going to get relegated and who's going to get playoffs in each league, whatever. Anyways, we're checking out Carlisle. As you can see, well, they did get relegated last season from League 2, so they have obviously still got some players that were in the EFL, like Armstrong. I swear he was there. He scored 8 goals in the league. They're fairly inconsistent, Carlisle. Losing to Rochdale, losing to York, and shockingly to Chatham Town, but that's not in the league. But two hard games though, so we can't really blame them too much, and also losing to Boreham Wood. But, you know. Yeah, most of the other games they've won, except from Solihull Moors, was 3-3. But, as you can see, okay, they've got a decent amount of fixtures. They've got probably an easier amount of fixtures than Rochdale do. Didn't really check York's fixtures, but might check them now, the fixtures that they've got. Yeah, they've got decent fixtures. York still pretty easy, really. Anyway, now we're checking Boreham Wood. They got newly promoted. I think it was like 2 seasons ago they got promoted. It was it wasn't last season because it was Brackley Town and Scunthorpe that did. Oh wait, no, they were part of National League South, so they went up. I thought they were part of National League. No, that was Brackley and Scunthorpe that did. But anyways, Boreham Wood, newly promoted. They're doing fantastic in the league. Their away form's not very good, to be fair. They've not really got the best away form. Well, recent away games have not been that great. Losing 3-1 to Altrincham and 4-1 to Rochdale, and drawing 2-2 with Eastleigh. But home form's pretty much a different story, to be fair. Not too much, but yeah, they're doing good for their first season in the National League, Boreham Wood, to be fair. But Now we go on to another newly promoted team, Scunthorpe United. Now, they're kind of fairly inconsistent, to be fair. The last win was 1-0 against Southend. But since then, they've not won a game in 3. But the most mental loss was the Boston game, 6-3 at home to Boston United. That was probably the most shocking game of the season, to be fair. Most people would have probably predicted Scunthorpe to win that because Boston aren't a top half team really in the National League. Okay, Scunthorpe have shown that they could win against some pretty big teams. Like Southend, Forest Green, Boreham Wood, Hartlepool, and others. But fixtures, I think they've got a harder amount of fixtures than the other teams do. Scunthorpe have a bit of harder fixtures. Because they still have York, Rochdale, Hartlepool, Halifax. Some very tough fixtures, them. Anyways, we're moving on to Forest Green Rovers. In my perspective, I do not see these lot getting promoted for a while. In a few seasons, maybe. But they're very inconsistent now. 5 losses in all competitions in the last 6. They won against Woking, but since then, 3 losses in a row. But they have been to like the 3 best league teams, York, Rochdale and Carlisle. And yeah, they also lost to Scunthorpe as well, up before their 3-0 loss to Wealdstone. But they're another team that are quite inconsistent, and I could not see them getting promoted this season. They've not really got hard fixtures, really. The hardest fixture they got is probably Southend or Boreham Wood. And personally, I see them losing both of them. Halifax being promoted, well, not being promoted, sorry. They're a decent top half team. They've not been in the Football League. I don't think they've ever been in the Football League, really, Halifax. So if they actually did get playoffs and promoted, what a moment that would be for them. Recently losing to Gateshead was probably one of the worst, probably one of the most disappointing games to actually lose to. It's probably the easiest game of the season, having Gateshead at home. And in my opinion, they're getting relegated, Gateshead. They're not in good form, Gateshead. Another team who's quite inconsistent as well, to be fair. There was a stint that actually did quite well, but for the last 4 games, they've only won 1 game, lost 2 and draw 1. And they've got some very hard fixtures. They still have to play York away, Rochdale at home, Hartlepool away, Carlisle at home, Scunthorpe. Well, Carlisle at home, Scunthorpe at home, and Southend at home. Very tough games they have got. Personally, I don't think this will be their year, but you never know. Southend, the thing about these lot, 7th is a very good position for the amount of games that you've played. They've got like 3 or 4 games in hand. They're actually quite consistent, to be fair, Southend. And they're like a point or 2 away from Halifax, who have played almost every single game of the season. But Southend have played like the least amount of games out of any team in the league. And they're still in a 7th place position. Or 8th. Yeah, 8th. 8th, I meant. Only 2 points separate them, and Halifax have played 4 more games than Southend. That's just crazy to me, to be fair. And to be fair, I do actually see Southend having a great end to the season. So they've won some proper... So they've won games by high scores. 5-1 against Morecambe. 4-1 against Eastleigh. 4-0 against Truro. Some proper high-scoring games, but the last two away games have been like almost one of the toughest ones of the season. Rochdale's probably the toughest to go to. So either Rochdale or York, and they lost to Southend as well. Oh no, they lost to Scunthorpe as well. Yeah, but Southend they're quite good. Really, I think they'd be above Halifax. I don't actually know about. Yeah, they'd probably be above Halifax. I'm not too sure about Forest Green, but you know. Anyways, now we're checking Hartlepool. A team who was in the Football League 3 years ago, but they've not came back up since. Last 4 games they've not won. The last one was against Gateshead 2-1 at home. They've lost 3-2 to York, 1-1 draw against Tamworth, 3-0 loss at home to Aldershot. That's just why we love football, really. And 0-0 against Brackley. So last 4 games has not been very good for them. They got Solihull Moors next. Fixture wise, it's not too well. It is quite difficult. Carlisle, Southend, Scunthorpe, and Rochdale and Forest Green. But those are like the main tough games. And last team that we're looking at, Solihull Moors. Yeah, pretty much Solihull Moors. I don't think Boston will get a top half finish, to be fair, so we won't bother looking at them. So, recent weeks not played that well. They can score goals. We have seen that for a while in the season, Solihull Moors. They can score a couple goals, but like the thing is they're not winning them games, even though they probably should be. 0-0 against Braintree, 3-2 against Eastleigh, 2-0 against York. They did win away at Morecambe, but that's probably a quite easy game, to be fair. And Rochdale, they lost 3-3 with Carlisle, 5-1 with Aldershot. That's like these couple games are the reason why they can actually score goals. It's 4-1 against Sutton, 7-1 against Tamworth, and 5-1 against Aldershot. They don't. Yeah, like they could score goals, these lot. It's just they're not getting the results that they want, so that's why they're not in a like playoff position at the minute. Well, guys, that just is the end of the video. Hope you liked it, and see you in the next one. See you in a bit.